Yo, what's up, everyone? Excited to be with my buddy Josh Tan. Woo woo!
Woo!
We're gonna have fun today. I have one of the most interesting dudes I've ever met in my life, Josh Tan. Yeah, he's the founder and president of Josh Tan Alchemist Consulting, and he does a lot of cool things, right? He helps. He's a business growth. He has a business growth community and helps entrepreneurs. So he founded or co-founded Shift Company, and he has a ton of background in engineering operations as an engineering operations manager. Um, Really into spirituality and transformation, and I know him through the beautiful work that is Landmark. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks, Davidson. That was a pretty great intro. I'm really recreated and happy to be one of the most interesting people you know. That's pretty cool. You know a lot of people.
Yeah, you and Evan, I would say, are on that. Evan's also, for those of you who don't know Evan Pham, he was a previous guest on the podcast, and we talked a lot about spirituality and psychedelics and just like who we're being in the world and healing and self-actualization. So all really cool topics that I'm sure we'll tap into some of that in this conversation as well.
Yeah, some of those are my favorites.
Yeah, Josh. I mean, so right off the bat, like I'm curious. So for additional context, Josh and I are in this super intense program called Landmarks Team Management and Leadership Program, and we're in quarter two, so we're about like 4 or 5 months into the program. And how are you liking it so far?
Team is really intense, actually. I mean, I knew it was going to be intense before joining. I knew that it was going to take a lot of me to get the promises of the program. So it's a transformational program that helps you have breakthroughs in your life regarding what's important to you, regarding and especially for teamwork. So if you're a lone wolf type, if you do everything on your own, if you're a high achiever, definitely something to check out.
Yeah.
That was pretty much my MO for my whole life.
Mm.
And I'm trying to I'm having my breakthroughs in business and consulting, and really like a new sense of power is starting to come in.
Hmm.
And the cost of that, or what I have to do to get that, is really high. It's really intense. I'm getting confronted a lot. um, I've been confronted pretty much every day this week. Like every day this week, I'm having a really tough confronting conversation with somebody.
Wow.
And thank God that I've done a lot of work on myself. I know that it's like for my own good, and that there's a transformation happening. So overall good, just very intense.
Yeah, I mean, you summarized it perfectly. To give additional context, this week alone, I called a guy that I haven't spoken with in 16 years, who was one of my best friends, who said some racially insensitive things. And I approached them about and said, hey, like, you kind of messed me up, man. Like, I went to hundreds of hours of therapy, and some of it was due to some of the stuff that you said, and he was just like, I'm so sorry for that impact. And like, I love you like a brother, and I'm sad that we had a falling out, and now we're good, and that was like, that was crazy. To like, I just picked up the phone and just called him. And then I called an old boss, similar context, like racially insensitive stuff, and I just quit. And the way I quit was like kind of burning the bridge down and everyone along with it. And he was like, dude, like, it's okay, people quit all the time, like, don't sweat it. And I called him, and he was just blown away that I called him and approached him about this. But just another week in Landmark.
Yeah, just another week of having transformational conversations and getting free and transforming your life and getting your power back.
Yeah.
Pretty much it.
Yeah, just
You don't
getting
want
your
to do that, you're on the wrong episode or you're in the wrong broker.
Yeah, I love how you said that so nonchalantly, right? It was like, yeah, it's like just being with that, it's like powerful, right? Like, wow, like I feel like lighter. Like, I'm like, I watched TV today and I was like, whoa, like, I don't feel guilty about watching TV. Like, that itself was a breakthrough.
That's awesome.
But yeah, man. And I know like you've done like a ton of other programs, and you've done like spiritual retreats, and what, I mean, I guess I'm curious. I'm sure you get this question all the time. Like, why are you so curious, right? Like, was there like a specific moment, or like, it sounds like there's probably a combination of events that has led to your curiosity, but was there one like tipping point where you were like, huh, I should look into this a little bit more?
I would say I've always been pretty curious. I went to Catholic school growing up, and I was always that kid asking additional questions in theology class. Like, what about God? What does this mean in the Bible? What if God did this? What if God did that? What's the purpose of life? So those questions were always present. And as I started to expand my worldview, I got more and more into like mysticism and esoteric stuff, like all that like yin yang chakra, like energy body, tai chi, yoga, like all that Eastern world stuff really resonated with me.
Mm.
I just thought it was like super fascinating. And I would say the tipping point was in 2012 when I started to see how people's energies can be used for good or for bad, through different forms of consuming different kinds of media, or living in different kinds of lifestyles, different kinds of practices. You could have a difference in like your overall psychology and energy. And I was like, wow, so this stuff really works. I
Mm.
started to see how like living a certain lifestyle, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind and your spirit would open certain doors, and not taking care of it would close certain doors. And I started to follow that path further and further, and realize that there is a lot more than can be seen to the naked eye.
Mm. Yeah, that's fascinating because like you also come from the engineering, the more process driven, like, so clearly like the Western kind of like, like, oh, I'm gonna like create stuff, or like I'm gonna optimize stuff. Well, I guess in a way it's kind of related, right? But in so many ways, it's like some of the, like you said, mythicism stuff doesn't make any sense, like logically, right?
Right. I would say a lot of it doesn't make sense, actually. A lot of it is just kind of like, you do what? Like you have to, I don't know, like breathing at first. When breathing you take for granted, you're just breathing, right?
Hmm.
But then there's all these different kinds of breath patterns you can do that activate different nervous system pathways and activate different organs to release different toxins. And you know and then just that alone is enough to start seeing how there's more ways to access like the spiritual path. It's not just praying, right? It's also breathing, it's also being in gratitude, it's also you know visualizing and feeling your emotions and things like that.
What would you like? I've done prana breathing. I feel like that was helpful. I mean, it sounds like you've tried like a little bit of everything, right? And then you kind of just see what resonates with you the most.
Yeah. What's the question?
So I guess for beginners who are like aren't into this as much, because sometimes people ask me like, where do you start, right? Like, do I just Google stuff? Like, do I just ask a friend? Like, how does one discover some of these like opportunities to um do some of these like more, I guess, not as mainstream things?
Yeah, great question. I would say to look up, I mean, everyone's a little bit different and everyone's path is unique, and there's going to be something that calls to you. Like for me, it was more about energy work and altered states of mind and like psychedelics. And you could also alter your state of mind through meditation. So that was like really important to me. I was really using meditation to like calm a sense of like overwhelm. I would not anxiety, but more like overwhelm and like a constant pace of action. I was using meditation to calm that. So to answer your question, like, how could people get started? Look for the thing that generates the most curiosity to you. When you're looking at these subjects, one of them is going to sound really interesting. Like Ayurveda and the study of food and how food could alter your energy and your body and your spirituality, that might resonate with someone who's more like a foodie.
Mm,
Something like, yoga would be maybe for someone who's more of an athlete.
mm,
And meditation could be for someone who's more mental, like myself, like more of a mental thought process driven person, like an engineering type. So meditation was that for me.
mm.
And for some people, there's the study of like interacting with others, relationships. There's the study of families and the family unit, like mother father energy kind of stuff. Some people are really attracted to things that are like cosmic, and you can go down the path of astrology. But I
Mm.
would say that for each person, whatever you're resonating with first is, or whatever generates the most curiosity, is where to look.
I love that. Yeah, just really being in touch with your curiosity, that sometimes we lose when we get old, when we're quote unquote adults, right? I think we all have it when we're younger. Like I know I was always super fascinated about like the solar systems and dark holes and quasars and atoms and quarks. And somewhere I had to work and I stopped really like reading about that stuff, you know? Yeah. Huh. And have what's that one called where it's like you breathe very heavily and then you it's like a type of really fast breathing, but some people say you can alter your state that way.
There is a lot of Kundalini breath work out
Oh,
there.
Kundalini, that's what it was. Yeah.
It could be the breath of fire. Kundalini just uses like so many different breath patterns, and they're all for like cleaning your energy and getting grounded in your body.
Hmm.
And there's also holotropic breath work.
Oh yeah.
Um, so like a little bit further down my path, I remember doing things like holotropic breath work, which is like a 3-phase breath where you breathe into like your stomach, your lungs, and then like your back, basically like breathing all the way up.
Huh.
And I did this breathing for like 20 minutes, and I was completely sober, right? Completely sober, no nothing, no funny business, just completely
Huh.
sober, doing this with like a shaman, right?
Uh-huh.
And I had like an out of body experience, like straight up, like I was not in my body. I went to some other place, some
Huh.
other like dimension, I don't know. And those are like the kinds of experiences that kept me like hungry for more.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because like sometimes we get attached to these experiences, right? And then we do the meditation again in hopes of reaching that like out of body experience again. And the key is to not be attached to, because the outcome's gonna look different, right?
You're 100% right. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
100% right. One of my teachers told me like, sometimes you'll practice meditating and it'll just suck. And it might suck for like months or years. You might just not be good at it for a while, or it just might not be fun or pleasant. It might just seem like a chore. And like that's where the practice really starts.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it took me like 3 years to like quote unquote meditate, where I felt like I was starting to get those out of body experiences. But the first 3 years, I was like sucking, quote unquote, sucking, because I was just like, I'm not doing it right. This sucks. I'm not getting like what everyone else is getting. And like I was just all up in my head. And then finally, I was just like, you know what? Like, I feel better afterwards. Like, so I'm just going to trust the process. And then I started getting these like I've started getting these experiences where I'm like, whoa, like I don't know what just happened, but that felt great.
That's amazing that you kept up with it for 3 years. That's a lot of dedication.
Yeah, I think it took me like 5 years to like trust that. I'm like, okay, like this is working. So
Wow.
yeah. Cool, man. Well, I was watching Billions today, which is this like show that's on Showtime, and it really just blew my mind that like they were just talking about ayahuasca openly on like a pretty mainstream show. Like I feel like Billions is one of those shows that like they have billboards everywhere, and it was funny because they were talking about the hedge fund manager, who's supposed to be kind of like Ray Dalio's, who's like, his net worth is like over 10 billion or whatever. He was having like an ayahuasca experience, and same with his chief operating officer. And like I was just blown away. I'm like, whoa, like this is in mainstream media now. But yeah, I don't know too many people that like talk about it openly, you know.
Yeah. Um, did you want me to talk about it?
Yeah, I was like, that was a statement and not a question.
Is there, can you give me a question?
Yeah, I'm curious, like, well, first, like, what made you want to even try something like that? Because I think not everyone has that, or everyone has different risk tolerance, right? Or some people have control, like people like control, and I have it that in order to do something like that, you have to give something up.
Okay. So what made me try that first? And like, so like the first question is what made me try that?
Yeah.
Just honestly, general curiosity, knowing that I want to always walk that path and take steps further and further in what I call to be like the truth, spiritual seeking, you know.
Mm.
Uh, I think it's I'm starting to see now that I've been seeking for a long time, like 10 years, and I've had enough experiences that there's no such thing as like your normal life and your spiritual life. They're
Mm.
both the same. There's like nothing separating the two. Like your life, no matter how plain or vanilla you are, it's still a spiritual life.
Mm.
You're still connected.
Mm.
And so what made me try it the first time is hearing about it, hearing about like what it could potentially do, which is basically cause you to have a breakthrough, a spiritual breakthrough, to feel, or experience something that's beyond this world. And then just being like, wow, I want to try that.
Mm.
Like that's exactly what I want to try. I want to
Mm.
know what that's about. I want to experience that. I want to see what else I could find out. I want to know, like, I didn't even know it was a healing plant at first. I
Mm.
thought it was about, like seeing God. And I
Mm.
was like, yeah, count me in. And it
Mm.
took me a while until it actually happened. But yeah, I was interested from the moment I heard about it.
Yes, I do think there's certain people who just always have a curiosity to experience more, to learn more, to, like you said, like just be open-minded to a new way of, not only new way of being, but just like just they're just curious about life. Um would you, I guess, like what was the, like what are some of the lasting effects that that still influence you today from from those experiences?
I would say destroying limiting beliefs is a powerful, lasting effect. Um, I would say that there is a change in your level of accepting the world as it is.
Hmm.
Like a lot of people, they fight against the world. They fight against their life. They fight against their friends. They want to change things. They want to fix things. And then like life is just going to show up the way life shows up. And
Hmm.
I think that having like a level of acceptance and like serenity around it is a possibility that I experienced.
Hmm.
Yeah, and just knowing that, again, like knowing that there's something beyond like the physical world and beyond like the illusion, or there's more than just like your daily problems, right? There's like this
Hmm.
whole other space that's like invisible, is really it's nice. It's ground for me, it's grounding, it's relaxing. It's like, okay, like if you can handle all that stuff, you can handle anything.
Hmm. Yeah, I hear a sense of connectedness, like me and you, Josh, or like we're not different, or every human being is the same in a way. Like we're all from the same source, like energy, right? There's less of a us versus them mentality, more of like a cohesive like unit, right?
Yeah, that's definitely there as well. Like experiencing a level of unity is definitely part of it. Um, yeah, part of unity, and like with that unity comes like falling in love with other people, just as people.
Hmm. And I hear that sometimes there's a loss of time, right? Um, how long did it feel like to you, like the whole experience?
The experience felt really long, actually. Probably felt like maybe like 4, 5, 6 hours, maybe like 6 hours. Yeah, but it feels like when you're in the experience, it doesn't feel like time is going by. You just know that it's like a long time.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it felt like 6 hours or so, but it was only actually like what, 30 minutes or something? Or
No, actually. So actually drinking ayahuasca at the plant is around like the peak of the experience is probably like 3 hours. But there's like a come up and a come down, right? And then in the
yeah.
middle is the peak for about 3 hours. The 30 minutes you're talking about is when you smoke DMT. So
Oh, yes.
DMT is the active ingredient in the psychoactive ingredient in ayahuasca. If you smoke it, it's absorbed through the lungs or through the bloodstream that way, which causes a much more rapid experience. And if you drink it, it goes through the digestive system, which causes a much slower experience.
Oh, and you've done that as well?
Yeah.
Oh, but is DMT an entirely different experience than ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca is the real like spiritual experience. It's the
Hmm.
real, like spiritual inner work experience.
Hmm.
DMT is more of like the recreational, like psychedelic experience.
Hmm. But I mean, so far everything you're describing, even with ayahuasca, does feel like, when I was thinking about like um psilocybin, for instance, right? I felt like what you're describing is kind of like how I felt, you know?
I would say that most psychedelic, and they actually do studies on this, right? They did the studies on this starting in the 60s and 70s. Then they got canceled for a while, and now they're picking up back again.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, all psychedelics, they come with that feeling of like unity, peace, love, respect.
Mm-hmm.
All pretty much all of them: psilocybin, LSD, San Pedro, mescaline, like peyote. They all have. Even marijuana has that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what is it about that altered substance that causes humans to go into that state? Yeah, but to your point, yeah, I mean DMT and psilocybin and ayahuasca and LSD have a strong component of like falling in love with other people.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, ayahuasca is the most powerful, or that was the most impactful out of all the experiences you've had.
I would say, yeah, I would say so. That is the most impactful. It's
Mm.
one of the ones that got so like in the spiritual seeking path, right? One thing that people are seeking for is dissolving the ego, right? And like returning to your spirit or yourself. And I would say that one ayahuasca was one of the closest I've had to experiencing that.
Mm. And it's also scary, right? Every time I've had any ego dissolution, like it was always very scary for me. Like, I don't know, it was a very uneasy feeling for me.
So for me and the number of times I've drank ayahuasca, I have a blast every time.
Hmm.
I am smiling like ear to ear, like a kid in a candy store. Like I'm having the time of my life.
Huh.
It's not like that for everyone, but for me, that's just the way it happens.
Wow, that's beautiful. I wish I could say the same. Like for me, it looks like the path looks like I'm like, okay, like there's like some eye-opening moments where I'm like, wow, like I feel so connected to my best friends. I feel connected to the universe, the sun, plants, the mountains. And then that's cool for like 3 hours. And then I go to like this dark where I like basically relive all of my traumas. And then I'm like, oh, wait, like there's forgiveness, there's humanity. And then I'm like, oh, okay, like, geez, why did I make such a big deal out of it? And then there's like this ego resolution, like, does like where I'm like, who am I? Like, I forget who I am. And then I go back and I'm like, well, that was crazy. Like, never doing that again.
What makes you think that that it's scary for you, or like that you want to like run away from it?
Yeah, it is hard to be with that. Like, I'm not like I'm not Davidson, right? Like it is scary for me to think that like, oh, I'm the same as this gecko or this moth I just squished. And like, you know what I mean? Like it is like a weird feeling. Um, yeah, and it also makes me feel like I'm like, who knows like what is real and what isn't, right? So it definitely makes me question a lot of like everything we learn in school, for instance, right? And I don't know, it's just definitely shakes my foundation of like what I believe to be true or not.
Yeah, yeah. That's a common thing. Like I don't know if I've had that level of fear around it. Maybe I have in the past. I mean, I've definitely had some crazy freakouts in the past.
Mhm.
Um, and they say, like the masters and the gurus say, like you'll always have like that. Every time you get to another level, you'll have like that kind of like freaking out experience again.
Hmm.
And you're 100% right. Your description's 100% right. Like everything you thought to be true is now questioned, and that's freaky. You know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
But I think long term wise, like like permanent wise, I do feel myself more compassionate, more kind, and just in general like more connected, right? Like I'm not taking Mother Earth for granted. Like I appreciate her flowers and her trees and her mountains, right? That's something that I have found to be like permanent, like, you know. So I think that's why I continue to explore, because I feel like for me, that's the spiritual connection I have to the universe.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Where did that originate from?
Like, where did I first see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, well, there was an interesting instance I had once where I was with my best friend and I lost Eagle. So I thought I was him. So I felt myself like literally transporting into his body. And I was like, saw him like I was in his like body. And it was like so freaky. And I remember like looking at the birds, and then I was the bird, and I was looking down at us like in the raft when we were like in the, I think we were just like going down the river. And I remember like seeing all the trees, and it was, yeah, it was like quite overwhelming. But yeah, I think the common theme is like anytime I'm in nature, I'm like, man, like nature is so beautiful and it's like majestic, and it's like it just helps me appreciate like the finer things a little bit more, you know?
That's awesome.
So, and it sounds like, have you done Toad's venom as well?
I have not done that one yet.
Ooh,
Uh, I know that one's really popular right now. Haven't
yeah.
done.
I heard that's like and hits you like a brick.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. And a few friends have done it. They're all they've had really great experiences.
Yeah, yeah. But you're right. I think out of everyone I've shared, like I think ayahuasca so far, everyone has said that's been like the most transformative and the most impactful. Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah. And the cool thing is, I feel like there's a lot more research. There's a lot more appetite. Like, I think in Silicon Valley, it definitely is becoming like more popular within the business context. Like, and then now I see there's even like helping people with depression. And I mean, that was always around. And then, you know, and it kind of like you said, kind of got canceled. Now it's coming back. But it sounds like there's a lot of research into how it can help us with depression and all these other things, like you know, when in conjunction with like a trained therapist or something like that, you know.
Sure. The history of it is actually from the Amazonian tribes when there was an issue in the tribe, like somebody, the chief was mad at somebody, or somebody killed somebody else or something like that. They would administer ayahuasca as the medicine, and they would put the two people alone together, or whoever's having a problem, like a societal issue. They would administer them. They would sit them with the shaman, administer the plant. They would go through ceremony, and then on the other side they would like come out with a message, or their healing, or whatever forgiveness they're looking for, and then they would like rejoin the society.
Wow, I didn't realize it was for that purpose. That's interesting. Yeah.
It's a healing medicine, much like how people use cacao to like gather. They would use ayahuasca as a medicine, like something is wrong with this member of the community.
Hmm.
And it wasn't always ayahuasca. Sometimes it was another plant.
Right.
And then there's obviously plants that deal with like oh, this person's poisoned or this person has an infection or something like that. But those issues like that we're looking at now, depression, separation, isolation, anxiety, anger, extreme anger is one as well. Those can be handled with ayahuasca.
Mm. It's interesting. I mean, just even reflecting on us, right? Like what has been some of the healing that you've received internally from these healing medicine plants?
I would say the biggest healing I got is, I don't think it's complete yet, to be completely honest with you. I probably need to go for some more sessions and some more ceremonies.
Mm.
But it's an unraveling of like what I'm afraid of and what's stopping me, specifically in the worlds of spirituality, self-expression. Self-expression as a leader and a business owner is important, and how I want to make impact in the world, and like what life path I'm going to walk. So that's really where I get the most downloads or the most breakthroughs. Like getting like reassurance that I'm on the right path, not to worry about things so much, and to like be easier on myself. Those are a lot of the messages I get.
Yeah, it's cool that it's with intention, right? I feel like with anything with intention, right? It's always if we're intentionally going into this experience with like, hey, my goal is to heal, be kinder to myself, or whatever it is, right? It's always so much more impactful.
You're making me think about like the last couple times I drank it. I remember the one time I was coming out of like a breakup with this young lady, and all the entire message was all about like her and like letting her go and like relaxing, and it's okay and it's not your fault. So it's interesting now that I think about it, because I haven't drank it in probably like 6 months or so as of today. So now that I think about it, like, am I starting to connect these dots again? That kind of like brush the dust off, So I think the important thing I'm trying to say is, if you drink, or if anyone drinks, it gives you what you need at the time. And that's what my teachers have said, and my shamanic friends, people that have been in the jungles and things like that. That's what they say. It gives you what you need at the time. It might not be what you expect, but it works on a subtle energy level, where it goes in where your energy's blocked, goes in when you're having energy blockages or old energy, and it moves it for you. And that movement of energy creates an opening for new energy, new consciousness, new thoughts, ideas.
Yeah, it's so interesting, because I feel like even though it's been around for so long, we still know so little about it, and like you said, maybe it's just because in the Western world, or the quantifiable data-driven world that we live in, it honestly can't be quantified, right? Because every experience is different and every person is different, so it's hard to put like a number, or it's hard to put it in paper when there is no really way to kind of, or unifyly kind of like explain it,
Yeah, I don't know what it is that makes like the Western world so afraid of certain things. I don't know what it is. Could be, the way the system's, most likely the way the system's set up,
Yeah.
Stepping back from like scientific method and having to measure everything to prove it. But I would say we know more. I mean, if you look for the right answers, I think the right people know a lot more than we think. It's just that as a cultural thing, we don't know as much about it.
Yeah, I know Arrowwood is like a really fantastic resource, like that like definitely helped me like read up a lot, and just so I feel like I have some sort of explanation in what, how other people have experienced it. um but that can also tarnish like kind of like your experience too, right? So it's kind of like being mindful of that as well.
The first time I drank, actually, I went in with no expectations and no intention, and I had a great time. I'm just like, give it to me, whatever it is. I don't know if I was gonna like throw up, if I was, gonna like pass out, if I was gonna cry. I mean, I was in a room with 5 other people. One of them was like purging, one of them was crying, and one of them had to leave and go to like another room to be by themselves.
Huh.
And I was like laughing the whole time.
It's awesome.
uh,
That's
I,
beautiful.
I
Yeah.
don't know why, but it's great.
Yeah, it's interesting because yeah, it's like how different everyone's experience is. And there's something to be said about, like you said, like it doesn't have to be intentional too, right? Like there's been plenty of times where I'm just like, you know what, like let's just do this. And I've also gotten something out of that too, right? I think sometimes like just being open-minded and just like you said, you'll get whatever you need, or if you don't need it, you'll get something, right? And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think so. It's gives you exactly what you need at the time.
It kind of reminds me of our mutual friend when we went together to this opening heart ceremony. Everyone had these like super elaborate like what fors and like, yeah, this is why I'm here to like heal like this thing from like 18 years ago or like all that. And then like they're like, so what are you guys up here for? And we're all like, just to have fun and be in the moment, just have a
Sounds
good time.
cool.
And it's so funny. They're like, okay, cool, have fun.
I could definitely see that conversation happening.
Yeah.
You know, just because.
So yeah, I just like you guys. You guys are cool people. Like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, fuck it.
That's awesome, man. Um, cool, Josh. Well, yeah, this has been a really awesome conversation. I'm sure we'll have more as we kind of both expand our minds and have more of these like fascinating experiences. But yeah, I just really appreciate and acknowledge you just being so open and fully self-expressed. Like honestly, like I don't know many people that are as open-minded as you. So if this inspires like someone to reach out to Josh and I'll connect Josh's like social stuff so that you guys can reach out as well. But do you have like a preferred way of reaching out to you or?
Yeah, you could just email me, josh@joshtan.net. That's JOSTAN.net. It's probably the easiest, fastest way to get to me. I do a couple different things on social media. Like my Instagram is more spiritual, my LinkedIn is more business oriented. But if you just want to shoot me a message, you want to hear more about my experiences, if you have personal questions regarding your like own journey, I love coaching and helping people get through their stuff. And if you want strategies on growing your business, hit me up.
Oh yeah, and what's your game in the world this quarter? For people who don't know what the game in the world, so we're in quarter two, and the first quarter, like my game was to have like 13 Asians who are like breaking the traditional mold. So Josh was like very vital in making that like a reality. So thank you so much. So it's a game that we're playing this quarter, and it's yeah, if you want to share a little bit more about that.
Oh, thanks. Actually, this would be a great little like plug, if you will. My game is to empower 25 purpose and impact businesses to grow and scale their operations.
Oh.
So if you have like a do good business, if you have something that is impacting the world in a positive way, and you want to scale your operation, scale your impact, scale your reach, namely through obviously generating more revenue, but there's a lot of strategy that goes into that, right?
Mhm.
A lot of strategy, a lot of tools, a lot of logical mind stuff, a lot of engineering stuff. If you'd like to have a discussion on that, be happy to speak with you and have you play in my game. So I'm looking to create a massive impact in an impact purpose driven model.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I don't know many people who the combine like the more logical aspects of a business with, like you said, like more of like the spiritual connection and more of the woo woo stuff. So it's cool to have someone that's a leading from that you can integrate to, because I have it that some people separate everything,
Yep.
and you know very well that it's actually all related. So
Thanks. And
cool.
yeah, it's a fun game. It's woo woo and cha-ching and it's awesome. Come play with me. It'll be great.
Yeah, Josh is awesome, guys. Like super open-minded guy, and just in general, like he's made my experience in team so much better. So I really just want to acknowledge you for just like having fun, living your life, like living like just an awesome life, man. Like I think many look at your life and they're like, man, I'll do that one day when I'm retired. And yeah, you're doing that right now. So I appreciate that.
Thanks. Thanks. And Davidson, I want to acknowledge you for breaking the mold, blazing your own path, being a stand-up guy, being a new model for yourself. Honestly, like I think that's really inspiring. Like learning who you are on the inside and putting that foot forward every day, I think is really inspiring.
Thanks, man. I feel acknowledged, recreated, and always empowered after speaking with you. Thanks, brother. Love you.
Love you too.